to another edition of Clock End Talk with me. I'm your guest host, Darren. You can find me at Deli Guna, and I'm joined this week by Tony.
Hello.
Welcome, Tony.
Hello.
Yeah,
as usual.
Yeah, I've got you, Tony. It's we've got no Schwinn this week. He's our technical expert, and as you know, Tez, the regular host of the Clock End Talk podcast, is rather ill at the moment. I just thought I'd start with that. A lot of people have been asking about Tez, and we're incredibly thankful for the support that we've got through this podcast and other mediums to help him. For those who don't know, Tez, our host, collapsed 11 days ago now. Was airlifted to hospital. I believe it was like an aortal bleed, really serious. He had 2 major operations and at one time was only given a 1 in 5 chance of pulling through. He's still seriously ill, but it seems that he's on that sort of long, slow road to recovery. For those who don't know, haven't followed him on Facebook, there's a message from his wife, Jodie, which if you bear with me, I'll just read through to you. This is her update from this morning. Day 11, and I have him up and walking. Go Tezza. He still has some numbness, pins and needles, and lack of sensation in his legs, but he is up and walking on a 4-arm support frame. Every step at a time, he's improving. I'm actually sitting next to him now while he's sleeping. He seems to be in a bit more pain and completely exhausted today, but that's all due to the physio. His fine motor skills are lacking, but we are just taking one day at a time. His delusions and confusions are still there, but he is able to hold more of a conversation. He spoke to a few important people today over the phone, and it was absolutely amazing to hear him hold a conversation. But his filter is definitely still broken. The shit he's coming out with is either hilarious or rude. No change there. So at least it seems, I seem to be laughing more than crying today. He is here with us all and not going anywhere. It's just absolutely awesome that I can update you with all this awesome news. We will still be here for a while, but I can't wait to hug the arse out of all of you for all your love and support. I have no words to explain how you have all helped in your own big and little ways. Much love to every single one of you beautiful souled people, and don't forget to love and be kind to each other. Anything to add to that, Tony?
No, just that when I read that this morning, I mean, I don't know if it's probably inappropriate, but when the bit about him having no filter, I was actually pissing myself laughing. It's like, some things never change.
I was going to say, when I got that, I thought he's back to normal. He's cured.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they expected an operation to put a filter in, or. But, I mean, obviously, God willing him all the best. But yeah, that bit of the update did make me laugh.
Well, I hope he's maybe get around to listening to us at some stage. I mean, since we last spoke, me and you, Tony, last week, we've had. Let's get on to things. Arsenal. We've had 2 wins. Scored 6 times, so everything's rosy in the Arsenal garden.
I'm not too sure about that.
Come on, 6 goals, 2 wins.
Look, I'm not going to argue with the results.
All right. Well, look, we've had 2 games. We went off to Frankfurt in the Europa League. Obviously, our toughest on paper anyway. Our toughest match in the Europa League qualifying. Didn't Frankfurt get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League last year?
No, semi of Europa League. They lost to Chelsea on penalties.
Oh, did they? I'm sure Frankfurt. Oh, okay. Oh, well, they lost to Chelsea on penalties, so they're a decent pedigree, I suppose. I mean, it was a cracking game of football, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was probably one of them games where I'd prefer it as not to have been an Arsenal game. Where it's just end-to-end. I mean, like, I've seen people describe it as a basketball match where it's so end-to-end, so many chances, sort of felt like anyone could score at any time. And I think they're great games to watch as neutrals because they're exciting. There's always something happening. But when it's your team, I think you go from joy to despair within like every attack, and it's probably not too great for the heart rate. But it was a brilliant game of football, and I think it's one of the games that if someone says they don't like football, you kind of show them that and say, well, if you don't like this, then it's just probably not for you.
Well, you know, I've sort of taken the unofficial role of defending our manager in the last few weeks while I've been sitting in while Tez is away. So, I mean, I sort of get so frustrated with Arsenal fans because they don't seem to enjoy watching football anymore. There always seems to be a negative. There always seems to be something that they're not happy with. But that game of football, end to end, no control of the ball, no control of possession, but a thriller minute. I mean, we had another 20 odd shots at our goal, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of answering your own point there, where there was no control and no this and no that. So look, again, if you
we
can't,
won 3-0.
No, but this is my point. If you watch that game of football and can't enjoy it, then there's something wrong. But then, as you said, you have the flip side where if you're looking into a deeper picture, which isn't always necessary, but if you are looking for a deeper picture, then there was, and it was abundantly clear that there was a lack of control, a lack of process, and a lack of anything. As I said, I think that's why I think it was probably one of them games I'd have preferred to have been a neutral for.
Yeah, maybe so. I guess, I mean, we'll talk about obviously the Aston Villa game yesterday, but it hasn't been good for the heart. Thankfully, Tess hasn't been watching because it hasn't been a comfortable watch, has it? But we did win 3-0 and we saw the emergence of Saka against Frankfurt. He really came of age in that game.
Yeah, he was very good. And I mean, every time I've seen him, I'm not going to pretend I've seen loads, but I've seen more than your average fan probably. And I've always been impressed. I like people wingers especially, who are, even if they do have a very weak wrong foot, so to speak, they're happy to go on it because it keeps the defenders guessing. And I mean, Pepe done it a couple of times yesterday, which I'm sure we'll get onto. And Saka is very happy. He's so left-footed, but he's very happy to drift inside. And then it just keeps the defenders guessing all the time because they know he's quick enough to beat him on the outside. But if they show him inside, he's happy to go there. Whereas you get some wingers that are so one-footed that they'll show him inside and he just won't go there because they can't use that leg. So I think that's a huge positive for him.
I mean, I've had some complaint. I tend to find myself defending Emery and being very critical of Arsenal fans, and that's strange because I am one of them, and I have been for many, many years. But I just think this is the sort of player. We've got a young player, and I love the confidence that he exudes. But it reminds me of players like maybe Iwobi, who's now left the club, who came into the side with so much confidence, and then after 6 months, when his newness had worn off, and the crowd start to get on his back, and suddenly that confidence drops, and he stopped doing the things that he did when he first came in. How can we keep Saka up? How can we keep him motivated? How can we stop Arsenal fans when he has a bad game, which he will do, stop getting on his back?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the problem with Iwobi was partially Wenger. And look, I'm not one of these people that blames Wenger for absolutely everything. But it was like Iwobi had a good game and then suddenly it was like, bang, you're starting 6-7 games in a row. And Wenger always had the philosophy that if you've had a bad game, go and play next week and sort of rectify it. But it gets to the point where at some point you have to pull him out. And I think Saka is not going to be first team. He probably won't start next week. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts tomorrow. I'd be amazed if he starts at Old Trafford. So I think that's one way to manage it. But you have to keep giving him chances, but not keep him in for the sake of it. I also think Iwobi caused himself a lot of problems. I mean, even just watching basic videos, that when he first came in, he was obviously always tall, but he was slim. He was slender. He was quick. He was still strong enough. It wasn't like he was weak, but he was agile. You look at him now, and he's built sort of like a bodybuilder. And yes, he's very strong and he's still quick, but he's lost that agility, which when you're someone that runs at players and beats players, you want to be agile. I think Alexis had that problem in probably since his last year at Arsenal, where he got too big. And I think Saka is capable of getting very big, bulky and muscly, but we've got to keep him off that. And I think the training plan has to be right. It's going to be difficult because he is young, so naturally he's going to grow, but they need to keep him slender and agile rather than making him very, very strong, but taking away what makes him very good.
There's lots of similarities and complete opposites for me from Saka and Theo Walcott. Where my season ticket is at the Emirates, I saw a lot of Theo. He was down on that, second half, down on the right hand side, down on that wing. And
are you opposite me? Are you?
Yes, yeah. You're the
dugout essentially.
Yeah, I'm the other side of the dugouts in the corner, heading towards the North Bank, in that side.
Yeah, so you're basically opposite me.
Yeah, and I watched a lot of Theo in his what did he have, a 10-year career at Arsenal, and I grew to hate him. I mean, he was everything we loved. He was a young Arsenal boy, brought in young from Southampton, not developed from the academy, but well spoken, well mannered. Picked for England when he was 12. It looked like he was going to be the greatest guy ever, but he hid. For the last 4 years of his career, he used to hide. He used to. I think he'll make a great centre forward for somebody in the lower leagues one day. But he's a very wealthy man for the limited qualities he's got. But when he was played on the right wing, he just used to go and stand behind centre halves, knowing that he wouldn't get the ball. What I loved about Saka yesterday and in Frankfurt, that he wanted the ball every time. He really wanted the ball, and I think that's one of the things that I'm really starting to enjoy with this Arsenal side. Is if we can take Watford out, is that we've got players like Guendouzi and Saka, Torreira, who just always demand the ball, and I think Saka could have a great future.
Yeah, he is a different type of winger to probably what we've been used to, in that he wants the ball to feet and he wants to go and beat his man. He's not always... I think Walcott, in a way, I mean, it sounds silly because of what he'd done, but I think he was kind of a bit harshly treated by our fans, because if you reckon, he was someone that just ran in behind, and I think being stuck out on the wing, we tried to give him the ball to feet, and that was never his game. You can argue whether he was good enough for us or not. That's a different argument. But when he's in the team, I think you have to play to his abilities, and I don't think we really did. But yeah, Saka's a different type of winger, and it's the same but opposite. If we just keep punting the ball in behind, then Saka's going to look like a bag of shit. So we have to continue to play to his strengths. And I don't mean build the team around him, but I mean give him the ball where he wants it. Don't make him do stuff that's not natural to him. And he could... I mean, the world's his oyster. His future could go wherever he wants it to take him, and I think a lot of it is down to him now.
Well, let's get on to the game yesterday. Obviously, we've got a lot of questions today as well. When you saw that team selection, I mean, that was the shock, wasn't it? Saka on the left of a three.
I thought that's what he would play, and I think anyone in any of our group chats would know that, because he's the only one that actually gives us width on the left. Even if you play Nelson, he's so right-footed and he cuts in all the time. No problem with that, but then you take away that width and you rely on the fullback to get round him. So I expect, and look, to be fair to Emery, he does like to reward players, and Saka deserved it. So that was what I expected. What I was more, I don't know if shocked or disappointed is the right word. Probably not. I think disappointed probably is the right word. I think when you are playing them three up top or three high attacking players, you have to fill the midfield with energy. Like, I mean, if you look at Liverpool, they've got their front three who are all quick, all technically gifted, but then behind them, they're not the best players in the world, but their options can all run all day. I mean, you've got Chamberlain, Milner, Henderson, Wijnaldum, that will all run up and down all day. If the quality is there, people will all debate that. I think our problem is I looked at that midfield and I thought, well, yeah, Guendouzi can get up and down, and the other two just can't. Look, I really like Dani Ceballos. I think he's so gifted, but he's not going to run box to box for you. And Xhaka, well, we know about his engine. So I think that was the only thing where I was a bit like, I don't even know if I'd say it was outright wrong. I was just tentative about it, I guess is probably the right word.
Well, I guess we talk about the selection. The back four and the goalkeeper are still picking themselves at the moment, at least until now. There was no surprises there. For me, I would have liked to have seen Torreira in Xhaka's place. That was the only thing. And I thought with Saka on the left, Pepe on the right, and a creative player in Ceballos in the middle of that three, it just looked more balanced. It just looked a better team on paper than we've had for a few weeks. He didn't seem to be trying to shoehorn in too many players. He left Ozil out. He had a creative man in the middle. He had two defensive midfielders, and he had width with Pepe, Saka, and Aubameyang, best striker in Europe at the moment, playing up front. It just felt like it was a good team selection. I mean, I guess I'm saying this because I know in the questions later there's questions like, that cunt got it wrong and he makes the changes too late, and I thought, when I saw that team, I thought, wow, that's a well balanced, good side, home to Aston Villa, creative attacking. It's 3 points all day long.
I mean, my concern, and it was the way it kind of, especially in the first half, is the way it played out, is the gap between them attack him free, and the rest. I mean, Ceballos is not a 10. People say he can play 10, but he can't really because he wants to be on the ball too much. Not a criticism, but it's just that's not his role. Guendouzi, the first half, played too deep. Looked like by the manager's choice or by someone's choice. A lot of the time, Xhaka was ahead of him. A hell of a lot of the time. It was really weird. I mean, I don't know if you noticed it from your seat. Oh, no, you're away. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm in Italy. Yeah.
Sorry. 90% of the first half, Xhaka was ahead of Guendouzi. And as I said, when you look at that team, you think we need energy in the midfield. And to have the most energetic one as the one who's sitting seemed very weird. And it also made a nonsense of him saying he doesn't want to play Torreira as the deepest one because he wants to use his energy. And then he plays Guendouzi there. It was.
Don't you think that? I mean, we'll get on to Guendouzi, but don't you think? I mean, because Guendouzi wants the ball all the time and can turn either way, and he's a little bit more agile and he makes mistakes in that position as well. Let's get that right. But because he's very agile, turns both ways, Xhaka gets caught in possession a lot, doesn't he, in that position? And there's a whole separate argument whether Xhaka should actually be playing in that team. But I think that's what Guendouzi's role in that team is, to go and collect that ball, give it to Xhaka. Xhaka then distributes. I
just think the issue is then you're taking your energy out of the game because he's too deep. So then you've got your 3 attacking players and then 2 players that aren't going to make it into the other team's area. Like at any time, Ceballos and Xhaka are not going to be there. So then the gap was just becoming bigger and bigger, and the players were going searching for the ball. So instead of the midfield coming up to the attackers were coming backwards to get the ball. And it was just all so easy. I mean, I don't think we had a chance in the first half. Saka had a shot from 20, 25 yards that was not bad. Maitland-Niles missed a chance after about 20 seconds. But I don't think we had a proper chance that I can think of.
It was a crazy, crazy game, wasn't it? I mean, I've written down here that it was a really open game. It looked like the last 5 minutes of a game in the playground where next goal's the winner. It started like that. It was just so end to end. And I mean, I know I've defended Emery, but it is a little bit worrying. Frank, people say he hasn't got any style. This is it. We're going to score 4 goals in you. We're just going to play. It was an open game, end to end. And it looks like teams now know how they can take us on, and then they just walk through us and score so easily.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, this is kind of sidestepping issues, but Guendouzi had possibly the worst first half, or the worst half I've ever seen him play for Arsenal. Actually, that's not true. Watford probably was, but he just done absolutely nothing. And I don't put that down to the role. I don't know why he was so deep. It takes away everything that he's really good at. But he's never, and I've had this argument with listeners mainly for the whole time we've had Guendouzi, he's never been able to track runs defensively. Whatever it is, whether he doesn't see them, he doesn't want to do it, doesn't know how to. And it showed again yesterday. I mean, McGinn literally walked past him. Guendouzi had a 10-yard head start and actually didn't move. Like there was 20 metres in difference, and it was all through McGinn. There's no pressure on the cross either. The cross was too easy to come in. But I think if you're going to play Guendouzi in that deep role, someone has to teach him. You have to follow people. You can't just let someone ghost in like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Guendouzi, I guess, in more detail. I've been a fan since the first day I saw him last year. You know that of me. I keep quoting it. Give me 10 of him every day. Because I just like the effort and the energy that he puts in. And if he had a bad first half, he was, was the man of the match by the end of the game. And for a kid who's young, who's come from nowhere, who's got thrust into a very, ordinary Arsenal side last year. Wasn't expected to play very much, but obviously the manager sees him in training every day and sees what he offers. And I think, I'm seeing so much praise for Guendouzi now. I sort of feeling justified in what I've said about him. But he's still, one season at top flight football. I mean, if he was one of our own who'd come through our academy, maybe we'd talk slightly differently about him because we buy him in, because he's unknown. I think people sometimes expect more of a player than we've got. But he's 1 year into the Premier League. He's very, very young, and he is still learning. And you're right, he made a mistake there. But the mistake, I mean, it wasn't just him. The cross, as you said, came in so easily. And I watched that again this morning. And Maitland-Niles, who we'll get onto now, just wasn't with it. Just wasn't with it. He looked dozy to me from that miss early on where he makes a good run. He just, I don't criticise too many Arsenal players. I support them all. Ainsley Maitland-Niles has been thrust into a position that he's not particularly comfortable with, and he's performed adequately. I mean, that's the word. It's adequate. It's not brilliantly. He's had good games. He's had bad games. But he's not a natural defender. And if you look, again, going back to my playground analogy, the guy has got time to look up, turn one way, turn the other, and put it exactly where he wants to without any pressure on the ball. He really didn't have a good game yesterday, Maitland-Niles, before he got sent off.
For me, the goal is a bit, in terms of, talking about Ainsley, it's very, very rare you see someone outrun him. He's very quick. And for his first booking, whether El Ghazi had a couple of yards on him due to bad positioning or whatnot, he essentially got outran. And I think that kind of rattled him a bit, because you could see, as I said, the goal was directly in front of me. The cross, was directly in front of me. Literally, it was in my eye line, straight in front of me. And I think I think it looked like it was in his head that this guy is capable of beating me down the line. So I'm going to really protect that. They always say, don't let a winger get to the byline. And I think he overcompensated. And I think Pepe probably could have helped him out a bit, because Pepe's in no man's land. And if Maitland-Niles is going to show someone back inside, Pepe's spare, so he should be covering that. And look, I'm not going all out saying the goal is Pepe's fault. But I think where you can see Maitland-Niles is just basically saying to the guy, you ain't going down the line no matter what. I think then Pepe has to realise that and sort of, I don't want to say completely double up on him, but cover the space effectively. Because even once he's come back inside Maitland-Niles, which I agree was too easy, Pepe is just there doing nothing. It wouldn't have mattered if he wasn't there. But I think that's what it was. I think just because it was probably one of the, you could probably count 5 times that Maitland-Niles has been done purely for pace since he's been in the team, and one of them happened to be 5 minutes before that goal. And I think that was probably playing on his mind. But again, that comes from not being a defender. And he'd done an interview himself this week where he said, I'm not a defender. I try, I do what I can, but it's not natural.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I say multiple fault. You can go Guendouzi. Agree, Pepe was just standing around. Guendouzi's trying to show him down, show him inside, and lets him go inside, and the cross comes in. Central defenders are all standing like statues watching the run come in. It was such an easy goal. It was embarrassing. And we're at home to Aston Villa, and this is the day that we're going to win 5-0, get everyone off our backs. We're going to put in a great performance against a weak side who haven't won away from home for a long time. And we then go down to 10 men. So we said Maitland-Niles, caught a bit of pace, bit unlucky, just catches his heels, I think, as he ran across him.
Well, El Ghazi, he ran across him, and there's nothing you can do. Anyone that's either watched enough football or has ever played football knows that if a winger runs across you, your two options are completely stop him, in which case you get bollocked by absolutely everyone because you've let someone go, or them running into you. It is a foul and it is a yellow card, but there's nothing he can do there.
Yeah, I got no problems with it. I mean, you take one for the team. The problem was how early it was in the game, and that left us in trouble. But then the second one, I mean, I haven't read a lot about this morning. From where I'm watching it on television. I mean, there's a couple of things I want to say, but it was a really good tackle, wasn't it?
Well, so this, again, directly in line with me. Like, it couldn't, from my personal view, it couldn't have been anywhere better on the pitch. I thought it was a foul on Maitland-Niles, to be honest. Obviously, he's gone to be sent off. Couldn't believe it, really. Then I looked at half-time. Obviously, we're now skipping ahead to half-time. I looked on my phone. I never really go on my phone during games, but I looked at half-time while I was waiting for my friend to come around. And no one was really complaining. I went on BBC. Even on Twitter, there wasn't strong complaints. The group chat, there wasn't, uproar. BBC website, so it's neutral. No complaints. Sky Sports, nothing. Like they would, it made it seem like it was an absolute routine booking. So then I came out thinking, okay, maybe my eyes have sort of deceived me. And then I watched Match of the Day 2 last night when I got home, and they didn't discuss it either. The panel didn't even talk about, oh, was there any injustice there? And I thought, okay, maybe they were rushing for time. They had the Chelsea game to show. So I downloaded Sky Sports highlights package. Didn't mention it either. At no point has anyone mentioned, apart from fans, mentioned that, oh, that was a bit unfair. I was
just going to say, maybe it's just gone.
Oh, I was speaking to a couple of people in the group chat last night, and they were saying, oh, it's an absolute disgrace. They should bring VAR in for decisions like that because it's clear and obvious. And I said, well, it's apparent. It's obviously not, because I don't think it was a foul. As I said, I think it was a foul on Maitland-Niles. But if less than 5% of people are moaning about it, which is what it seems to be, then how is it clear and obvious? Like, well, I agree with you, but
I watched it. I don't know what I was watching yesterday. It was I'm in Italy, so it was. I think it was a Sky Sports feed. The bit that really irritated me, and I don't want to talk about VAR this week. I mean, I still think the whole system's a nonsense. But the bit that really irritated me yesterday with it is I've watched it. I've seen the replay after replay. I'm lucky enough. I wasn't at the game, so I was lucky enough to see it 3 or 4 times. And every time they showed it, and while he was down injured, and the referee who's standing around, hovering around, waiting to get his yellow card out, and you knew he was going to get sent off. You got to see it 3 or 4 times, and the more I saw it, the more I'm with you. I thought he's a yard ahead of the other player. He's hooked the ball away a foot before the other guy gets anywhere near it. His momentum and the other player's momentum, they collide into each other. Maitland-Niles is pulling his legs back as there's contact. And John Moss, the referee, again, when I saw his name on the team sheet, I think, retire. Retire. You're past your best. Retire. He had time. And he kept putting his hand to his ear as if he was listening to something. He had time to go and look at that himself or to discuss it, because, sometimes you can't blame referees when they see something in real time and they think it's a foul and it looks on real time like a yellow card. He had time, and the VAR people had time to discuss it, and the wrong decision was made. Well, I just found it an incredible decision.
I'm kind of going to defend VAR here. I'm getting more against it every week, if I'm honest, but I will defend it in this situation. All he's allowed to ask, and this is the rule, so the rules of VAR are wrong, but I can't blame the officials, is all that they're allowed to check for is it a straight red? And he was told very quickly, no, it's not a straight red. But that is it.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So is it a straight red? No, in fact, he got the ball before the other fella, and it was collision. No, but these are referees. These are referees. It wouldn't matter, would it? It wouldn't matter. If they gave him some advice, they're there to help.
This is what I'm saying. I'm not blaming the VAR in that situation. I'm saying the rules of VAR are nonsense, but in that situation, that they've done all they're allowed to do. Yeah. It was weird as well. Again, I don't know what angle they showed it from on the TV, but Arsenal players and Freddie were all talking to the fourth official. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Anthony Taylor. And he seemed to be saying, like, yeah, I know, I don't think it was a foul. So then the Arsenal players have all sort of ushered John Moss over, like, go and speak to him. And John Moss literally walked up to him, said something from about 5 yards away and turned around, didn't listen to what Taylor had to say.
Look, John Moss had got his card out in his hand.
Exactly.
The tackle, and he just wasn't big enough, wasn't man enough to put the card back. That was it. It was just, he made a mistake, and he had time to correct that mistake. And before he made the mistake, he had time to use the people who were watching it on television, to use his fourth official. But because he didn't want to look to change his mind, then he, in my opinion, gave the wrong decision. But maybe it's just me and you, Tony, because you're right. On the television, the commentary I was listening to said Maitland-Niles on a booking, he shouldn't be going in for rash challenges like that.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said, apart from I'm going to defend VAR in this situation, because by the rules of it can't get involved. I agree.
Can you defend VAR for the Tottenham second goal?
No, I can't.
I mean, we've had one of those, Lacazette last year, before VAR, when fingernail was over, and the referee gave us offside, and then they went, "Oh, what a good decision!" No, it's nonsense. There's got to be some leeway there. Still, hopefully they'll start to change it after a while. End of the season, if it's not got rid of completely.
As I said, I'm definitely getting more against VAR every week. Also, again, so we was told at the start of the season that they would show every time they're checking on VAR, they would show it in the ground. But then when that didn't happen in the first week, they said, "Oh no, we'll tell you we're checking." Yesterday, as I got home from the game yesterday, there was not a single VAR check according to what we were showing in the stadium.
Really? Okay.
Oh no, according to what we were showing. That's what I'm saying. So it started off as we're going to show you every instance. Then it started off, "Oh no, we're just going to tell you." Now it's like, well, just fucking guess.
Actually, in fairness, I don't think there was a VAR incident yesterday.
There was.
I don't think there was.
So obviously, I mean, they check all goals and penalties. Yeah. But the Maitland-Niles one, they checked for a straight red card. I didn't know that until I got home.
Oh, okay.
And there was other ones that I'm keeping quiet about because we're going to get onto it later.
Yeah. So we're 1-0 down at half time. We're down to 10 men. Changes. He takes off Saka, who'd possibly been our best player at the time.
I think he was.
And replaces him with Callum Chambers. Inspired substitution.
Well, it's one that everyone knew who was going to come on. I mean,
did you? I mean, I wasn't sure.
I mean, the other option was probably Xhaka because he was on the booking. And Emery, like literally, had Saka been 25 years old, it probably would have been Xhaka. But Saka's 18 and 2 weeks and making his first Premier League start. I can't. He was probably not fit enough to play 90 anyway.
No, that's fair. Yeah, he was going to definitely come off at an hour. So, he probably only sacrificed 15 minutes of Saka. I think that was probably a pre-arranged substitution, having played on Thursday.
Yeah,
that he was going to come off.
For me, I think it was not the only option he had, but the
best option,
90%, and
the best option.
The logical
Can I quote
option. I would say it's a logical option.
So we come out the second half. Obviously, a very good team talk. I was saying that a bit tongue in cheek because of the first 5 minutes they should have scored again, I think. But then, was it the penalty next? Guendouzi's mazy run takes him past 2 or 3 players, gets in the box, gets brought down. Penalty. Yeah, clear penalty.
Yeah, definitely a penalty. Great run by Guendouzi. He was a man possessed in the second half. I have to admit, when Aubameyang gave that ball to Pepe, I was ready to leave the stadium. Like, I just kept saying over and over, why would you do that? Like, you could see the pressure was starting. It was the first time I think I've seen Pepe look like he's not showing 100% confidence. In the first half, there was times where he had the defender one-on-one, and so far what we've seen of him is if a defender's one-on-one, he's running at him. Like, it doesn't really matter what happens, he's going to run at him. And a few times in the first half, he turned around and kept possession. Nothing wrong with what he done. But you think, oh, is that his confidence shaking a little bit? So then when they've given him that penalty, I just thought, why? What are you doing?
Well, I've rented a little villa, me and my missus. I said to you before we started recording, it was a nightmare because it was a poor internet signal and the commentary was about 15-20 seconds ahead of the picture. The picture was okay, but the commentary was ahead. So I kept turning the commentary off to try and listen, and I did that for the penalty. But for the first time ever, I couldn't watch. I went outside and had a cigarette and just had to come back in. I couldn't. Exactly what you said. I mean, but isn't it good for team spirit, Aubameyang? Is it that Aubameyang didn't fancy it, or was he just being a good Samaritan and saying, yeah, Pepe, you haven't scored yet. Get your first goal.
Yeah, it's great for team spirit because he scored. If he misses, that's catastrophic. If he misses.
Okay, another question for you. He hits it straight down the middle. Brave or rubbish?
Look, he's meant it, so you've got to go brave. You can't say rubbish. And I think, like, look, I obviously know a few footballers, and a couple of them are penalty takers for their clubs. And they always say when you're under pressure, the keeper they're second guessing the keepers, and the keepers think, they're gonna have to try and do something here because they look really stupid if they miss down the middle. So it's almost the best place to go, if that makes sense, because the keeper's expecting you to try and do something to make sure you score, try and put it top corner, or try and put it right in the corner. So it's sort of that double bluff. I wouldn't do it.
No. I used to play up front, and I have a one only at Sunday morning football, but I have a wonderful headline because I scored the winning goal in the cup final. My surname's Poulton, and there's a headline in our local newspaper, "Penalty King Poulton," which I show everyone because it was the highlight. And I swear, there's nothing more nervous. It was the last minute of extra time in a final, at whatever level you're playing at. It was a big stadium for us.
It's your World Cup final, whatever level it is in actuality. To you, it's your World Cup final.
And I swear, until that point, I'd scored 9 out of 9. All of them went in the right-hand side netting. Honestly, every single one. And that penalty, with a minute to go, I miss it. It bobbled straight down the middle of the goal. And I scored. And strangely enough, that was only with a minute to go, we got a second penalty because the game kicked off then, and one of them punched one of our players in the area, and we got a second penalty, and I did exactly the same again, hit it. It's nerves. Nerves is an incredible thing. So I think you've got to hand it to Pepe, and let's call it brave.
Yeah,
and thankfully he's off the
brave
mark.
And stupid is the same word with different outcomes, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've scored. The crowd's up. We're all feeling just so relieved. We're 1-0. I think we've got to get back to that. We're down to 10 men. We're a goal behind, and we've got a chance to get back in the game. We haven't been very good this season, and we're thinking we can't lose at home to Aston Villa. And yet within 90 seconds of scoring that penalty, they do exactly the same again. Grealish, great little run, outpaces, I know it was Socrates to end with, but he ran past one player, then outpaced Socrates, and once again, really simple tap-in goal. Nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone that watches Arsenal that was surprised by that, and if they were, they don't watch Arsenal enough. I was actually, because McGinn should have scored just before that, and when he put it wide, I thought, we've got away with it, because we're always a bit shaky in them situations. So I thought, there you go, settle it down now. We've scored. They've come back at us and should have scored. Let's sort of, take your time for a little bit. It starts off with Leno's goal kick, good ball into Chambers, something that Leno's not usually the best at, playing them little lofted passes. At the time, I'll be honest, I thought Chambers' touch was horrendous. It looked like it ran about 20 yards away from him. Looking back at it, it was a bad touch, but not as bad as I thought. But then again, it ended weird with Guendouzi covering at right back, Xhaka in somewhere between right back and centre back. It's poor from Socrates being outpaced there. Again, I think he's worried about Grealish going inside on his right foot because he is right-footed. But when they had 2-on-1, similar to the El Ghazi for the first goal, Socrates has to cover one way and Xhaka the other. And Socrates, because Socrates is quicker than him. He's not a pure, he got outpaced because he's not quick enough. He got outpaced because he made a bad decision.
Yeah, it's a standing start as well, wasn't it? He was, as you're right, he was trying to show him that way, but he was off balance, and by the time he'd got going, the ball was in the net.
I just think it's poor body shape from Socrates, and it's not something you'd usually accuse him of. And then finally, I think David Luiz has been so affected by people about him giving away penalties and whatnot. He's on the back foot, and he's probably the most front foot defender I've ever seen. But
so what are you saying? Arsenal fans criticising our players isn't helping them?
It's so unheard of, isn't it? What a theory. But I think normally David Luiz would go through that ball, and if Wesley got in there and got a touch first, it'd be a penalty. But I think he's so passive because of the moaning that he's kind of waited for the ball to come to him. And Wesley's done well to nick in front of him, but I think on a normal day, or had Watford penalty not happened, I think Luiz clears that with ease, to be honest. And look, that's half making an excuse for him. He should clear it with ease. But I think that it was in the back of his mind that, I'm giving away too many penalties and I'm now the worst defender on earth.
So we're 2-1 down. Not long to go. We're down to 10 men. So he makes some changes. I think we're all sort of knew that there were some changes needed to be made. And he takes off Xhaka and Ceballos and replaces them with Torreira and Willock. You happy?
Yeah, I mean, for two reasons. One, as I said, with that formation, I would start with energy in the midfield, and he bring on the two energetic players that were there. And secondly, if people are going on about it's changed because he took Xhaka off. It changed because on the day he took off the two worst players on the pitch. I love
Yeah,
Danny Ceballos. I'm not one of them that's as down on Xhaka as everyone else is. But on the day, they were the two worst players on the pitch, and he took them off the pitch.
yeah. I think it's fair. I mean, we touched on Frankfurt, but Xhaka had a good game on Thursday.
Yeah,
It was probably
I thought it was very good.
it was probably a game too soon for him. I think just he looked tired in that second half. He looked tired from the start, as did Maitland-Niles, and Ceballos just didn't have his best game. So he's made those two changes, and his other change, Callum Chambers, sticks one in the top corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, that one, because like it's a good ball by Guendouzi, and Chambers has come in unmarked at the back post because whoever their left winger was at the time, I'm not sure if they'd made the change by then, just didn't follow him. But it's this is not a criticism of Emery, and it's going to sound like it. It's not a goal we've constructed because they usually wouldn't be thinking hang it up to the fullback at the back post because the fullback wouldn't usually be there, and they'd also be a hell of a lot shorter even if they were. Chambers has put a good ball in, to be fair. It's all you can ask. It's poor from Mings. I like Mings. I think they've overpaid for him, but I think he's a good player. It's poor from him, but Chambers does really well to anticipate that. And good finish. I just can't ask more. I don't care how it went in, but
he was putting a cross in, and if the defender hadn't stopped it, then Aubameyang was there to tap it into an empty net. He wins the second ball, which is something we did really well in the second half. Controls it well, and I think if Aubameyang had scored that goal, we'd be raving about it. It was more of a Lacazette goal, I would say. He managed to win the second ball, control it well, and then knock it and flick it into the top corner. Great goal. And then, of course, we have a grandstand finish. It was a wonderful game. I know I get annoyed with Arsenal fans for all their criticisms, but what a fabulous end to the game. It's all Arsenal. We've got them camped in their own half, camped in their own penalty area. We're relentless pressure, and we actually got a goal.
Yeah, I mean, Dean Smith's done well at Villa. I place most of the blame on their loss to him because at 2-1, I think if they carried on going for us, they probably, knowing our defence, would have scored more. But they made a couple of defensive substitutions. I think they took off Trezeguet and brought on Al Amadi, who's traditionally a right back, can play right midfield, but as defensive cover, really. And that allowed us to come onto them a bit. And you knew, like, it's one of the most famous sayings in football, if you get one, you get two, because they're sort of shell-shocked. They don't know what's going on. They then can't. They're stuck in defensive mode. I mean, you see it happen so often, and I think that was the feeling at the ground. As soon as we got that goal, it was like, we are going to get at least another good chance, and if we can take it, obviously that depends on who it falls to and how good their finishing is in that moment. But we started pressing because they didn't have anymore.
The build-up to that goal was a bit strange, I thought, because Aubameyang, I thought, fell over to win the free kick, and yet Pepe looked like he got taken out in the area, so it should have been a penalty. No.
To be honest, I've not seen with Pepe. I was going mad that the ref blew the whistle because I thought Torreira.
Yeah. I thought it was Pepe. Maybe it was Torreira, but I know that I thought Aubameyang went down really easy to win the free kick, but the ball squirts through, and then I'm pretty sure it was Pepe got taken down in the box.
Torreira, who cut inside Mings and then had the shot blocked, and then I hadn't heard the whistle, and Mings caught it. Obviously, he'd heard the whistle, so I was going mad, but the whistle obviously went way before to give the free kick.
And then Aubameyang obviously just passes it into the bottom corner. Goalkeeper should have saved it. He was so much expecting it to go into the other corner that he just passed it in.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really rate Heaton. I think I said earlier in the year, or earlier in the season, that I think he's probably value for money, one of the signings of the season. This was before a ball was kicked. But that is unforgivable goalkeeping. The ball can't go over the wall from there. And if it does, the keeper ain't going to get there anyway because the distance is so short that if it goes over the wall and gets back down, it's going in because the keeper's not going to be able to move that quickly. So I always think in that position, the keeper just has to protect their side. And he's left so much. It wasn't in the corner. It wasn't top corner. It wasn't even bottom corner. that should just hit the keeper. That went literally where he should be standing. He shouldn't have to make a save.
He passed it into the goal, and the keeper, his weight was going so far the other way, he couldn't move. If he'd have been balanced correctly, he would have just leant over and caught that. It was soft, but we deserve one of those, didn't we? After Guendouzi had a shot saved by miraculous save from Heaton. Louise had a really good free kick, which was saved by the goalkeeper. We deserved a bit of luck, didn't we?
Yeah, look, I mean, you make your own luck, and Aubameyang's put the ball with pace on target. That's sort of all you can ask him to do. I said the ball was never going to get up and down from there, so that was all we could do. And as soon as we won the free kick, I said to the bloke next to me, I was like, you've got to hit it as hard as you can, keeper side. And I said, it's almost a shame that Xhaka's not on the pitch, because that's kind of the moment you want him for. Just smash fuck out of it, the side where the keeper should be. And Xhaka's good at that because he can kick a ball very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, Aubameyang done all he could. I was worried, and they did do, I'm not sure what they done a VAR check on, but obviously the new rule about you're not allowed within a metre of the wall. I thought it was 2 metres, and there was definitely players within 2 metres. Even 1 metre there probably was. I'm not sure if they're allowed to check that, but as the ref was checking, I thought, no, not after them celebrations for such a stupid rule. Please.
It's back to my hatred of VAR. You don't know when to celebrate anymore, do you?
Yeah, I don't kind of buy into that theory, because I fully celebrate anyway. Like, it was only when we'd sort of walked back to the centre circle and John Moss wasn't kicking off straight away, he was holding his ear. And I was thinking, don't. I said, VAR for me has never stopped me celebrating. Other people say it hasn't, and that's on them, and they're not lying. But yeah, it was just that moment as he's standing there, and I thought, what a shit way to have a winner ruled out. Obviously, I'm the biggest pessimist ever, so as he's standing there, I'm thinking, he's going to somehow it's disallowed and giving them a penalty, or you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. It's maybe good that me and you are doing this podcast, because I like to be the biggest optimist in the world. So maybe that's how we see things differently. Look, we need to move on. For a start, I'm on holiday. My missus is getting the ump because it's late here. Let's get on to the questions that have been.
No, just say one thing and.
Sure.
So in the ground, I didn't see this. This is the VAR thing. The VAR thing I didn't mention earlier because I thought we'd come on to it. They 1,000,000% should have had a penalty in stoppage time, and I didn't know this until I watched Match of the Day. Like, I hadn't read it online or anything.
Is this the handball?
Yeah. I'm an Arsenal fan. I want Arsenal to win. It is handball. How VAR has not seen that is frankly a joke. Again, I'm happy for it. The same as the Tottenham thing. I'm happy for it. VAR but I mean, what is the fucking? If they're not going to overrule that, then there's no point in it.
Do you know? I can't even remember it. I think I was probably still celebrating. I say I'm watching it in a villa here, and it's got. I'm a smoker, so I walked out and was watching the game through a very small window.
As I said, this is another one where VAR, it didn't put up in the ground that there was even a VAR check going on. Apparently, it did happen. So I just saw a blocked shot. There wasn't a huge. There was a bit of an appeal, but I think again I was probably too wrapped up in the moment because Guendouzi got fouled just after, and I was like, I was probably cheering that yes, we get to clear the ball. That was probably the best thing about the atmosphere yesterday. After the third goal, anything that happened where the ball ended up with us got cheered like a goal. Mings played a 5-yard pass, mishit it, went out for a throw-on right in our corner, where like our defensive corner, and everyone cheered like we'd made it 4-2. We were so on edge, it was ridiculous. And as I said, I didn't notice the penalty thing because of that, but having looked at it, I just think, like, again, happy that it wasn't overruled, but verging on ridiculous.
So let's do. We didn't do our 3-2-1s, are there? Let's do our 3-2-1s. Who are you giving 3-2?
I think Guendouzi won us the game, but he was so poor in the first half. I'm going to give him 3, but sort of through gritted teeth.
Okay. I've also got Guendouzi because I've been singing his praises for 14 months. Love him, love him, love him. Love his energy. Love the way he drives at players. Love the fact he always wants the ball. He may have had an average first half, but he for me is the future captain of this club. Number 2 points. Who are you giving you 2 to?
Aubameyang, because I actually thought he played a very unselfish striker role yesterday. The complaint always is of him is he scores the goals and Lacazette does the work. I thought yesterday he got through a hell of a lot of work. And had he not scored, it's the stuff that doesn't get credit. That he ran the channels, he held the ball up reasonably well. I'm not saying he was brilliant at it, but it's all the stuff he doesn't get credit for. He done well yesterday. And if we're happy to criticise him when he doesn't do it, we've got to give him credit when he does, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to give my 2 to Kolasinac. I'm not his biggest fan. I've been looking forward to see Tierney coming in. I think he's very square on player, doesn't fit our footballing ethic, but I thought he was outstanding yesterday. I'd say it was one of his best games for the club. The amount of work he put in on that left-hand side, he was always out of position, but he charged back every time he could, charged forward every opportunity he could. I thought he was exceptional yesterday.
Yeah, fair enough.
And your one?
Pepe, just because he was the one sort of driving them back. He was the one they were scared of. He was the one that was creating. It was him getting the ball and looking to create chances for others. And I think had he not been there, there would have been a lot less fear from them. So he made them adapt the way they played.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to give my 1 to Saka. Only played 45 minutes, but I thought he was the best player on the pitch for us in those first 45 minutes. And I just think he was the difference in that first. He really was our best player, and I think he'll get forgotten about. So I just wanted to give him a point to get him on the board.
Yeah.
So let's get on to your questions. Now, I've split these questions into a few sections. There's my usual general questions, which aren't many, and then there's the we hate Unai Emery questions,
which is most of it, I'd imagine.
Which is everything. And within the Emery stuff, I mean, I prepared for this podcast. As you know, Tez isn't here, and Schwinn, who I thought was an excellent host last week, really hosted the podcast well. When we spoke earlier and I said I'd do it today, I had to look through the questions and I got angrier and angrier and angrier. I say I'm a positive Arsenal fan. We've just won 2 fucking games on the trot, scored 6 goals, won 2 games, and everyone wants our manager sacked. What's wrong with you people? There are times to be angry. There are times to get rid of this manager. There are times to be critical. But surely after 2 wins in the space of 4 days, that isn't the time. Anyway, so I'm just going to read out a few comments on Unai Emery because these are people who listen to our show and they've taken the time. These aren't particularly questions, so I'll just read out a few. Halls of Marble. Does Emery show that he just can't cut it? He gets things wrong, then changes it. It just appears shoddy. PM says, what did Torreira do to Emery and what is Xhaka blackmailing Emery with every week? Wiglet. The people saying, oh, actually, sorry, there's a positive one in here. Wiglet, I like you. The people saying hashtag Emery out are embarrassing. Guendouzi was great again. The rest of the midfield get caught too far forward too often and leave the defence exposed, which they cannot cope with. It's like we are starting each game 1-0 down with the way we are defending right now.
Can I just cut in quickly?
Because... Yeah, I know what you're going to say, Tony. You're going to say it's because of Emery that they are too far forward.
No, I wasn't. Sorry. I was going to cut it. I was going to cut in before you said what you said. So someone, and it wasn't me because I was at the game and I don't use my phone at the games, done a poll at full time, Emery in or Emery out. And at the time I saw it, okay, I've just got the end results. There was 1,900 votes, and it was 87% out.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing ridiculous. We're do you know what? we're fourth after 6 games, and I know we're not playing particularly well, but it's all about points, and that's what it's all about. If he qualifies for the Champions League, then he's good. This was last year, not now. If he qualifies, that's all we want. We're 4th in the league. We're 2 points behind Manchester City. We're above Chelsea, Manchester United, and Tottenham. If I'd have offered you that at the start of the season, would you have taken it? Yes, is the answer to all of you 90,000 million people who want him out. Ridiculous and embarrassing. Let's carry on with these. Bang. When will Emery logically leave? We are Arsenal. Hey, guys, we are happy with 3 points, but do we have any style? In my opinion, Emery should leave because we are not improving at all. Vishad, shouldn't someone tell Emery he needs to use his fucking glasses during match day since he's fucking blind to the obvious flaws in his system? Just a little taste of our audience. So So then there's some more Emery stuff, but these have actually got questions in rather than just.
I think, to be fair, when I put up the question thread, I did also ask for statements and comments. So I'm fine.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think it's good that we get these statements out. They're what people are thinking. I mean, you don't always have to have a question for this show. We want to know what people are thinking. And that poll that you've just said just sickens and horrifies me at the uneducated and embarrassing nature of our fan base sometimes. We've just won 2 games.
I'm going to give a little bit of a caveat. I've just checked it was at half time. So whoever done it, probably a little bit mischievous. And obviously, saying that, I mean, I'd imagine if it was done at full time, it wouldn't have swayed too much. Just, again, knowing what the fan base is like. But it was asked, it's one of them, it's asked at the worst possible time. Well, you know what result it was going to get. You 1-0 down to 10 minutes at half time. You knew. I'm surprised the 12% said in, to be honest.
I mean, Emery didn't have much to do with Ainsley Maitland-Niles getting sent off, did he? Do you know? I mean, anyway, let's get on to the questions. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. This is from Hakon Larson. I think. Do you think that the players believe in Emery plans and his approach to games? I mean, I think we covered this last week. You don't think he's got any plans, do you?
It seems to be different every week. As I said, this week playing Guendouzi deeper and Xhaka further advanced, and as I said, you're led to believe. I personally think he doesn't rate Torreira on the ball, but he doesn't want to come out and say that. So he says, he uses the positive example. I don't want him deep because I want to use his energy. But then he puts probably the next most or the most energetic player in the team in that role, and then Xhaka playing. I don't know what. It seemed to be like he was man-marking Grealish, which is always going to be a horrible idea because Grealish is very mobile and very agile.
Yeah. Tony, you've said on this podcast many times, and I agree 100% with this, is that players who are out injured tend to get better. You know, I mean, and that's just human nature, isn't it? We don't see them for a while. And, you know, Holding's now the best centre-half in Europe. Bellerin's the best right-back. You know, Tierney's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I understand that philosophy, but isn't that the same thing that's happening with Torreira? Torreira was very good until Christmas last year and then faded week by week to the end of the season. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was poor towards the back end season. I think it did coincide with his role slightly changing from sitting deeper to be more of a pressing player. But I think a lot of people's argument here is Xhaka. Basically,
yeah. No, I got. Look, I think I said at the very start of this show when we saw the selection, one of the things I would have liked to have seen Torreira play instead of Xhaka. I think, I like Torreira, I like Willock, and I think Xhaka's just a little bit immobile at the moment. And having played on Thursday, I think I would have liked to see that. So I'm coming from a base where I like Torreira, but I just think he's got better in people's minds, and I also think that. Watching him go forward, you can imagine he scored that winning goal against Tottenham last year, or the fourth against Tottenham. He's come onto the game late in games and he's made a real impact, and he's had some great shots, and he's put himself about and he's made a nuisance of himself. You know, maybe that is the best way. I think he deserves a start. I like Saka got a start. I think Torreira has done enough in his cameo performances so far to get a start. But I think he's got better in people's minds because he hasn't played so much.
Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time, as you just mentioned, and it's probably a fact with every team, but it seems just to be worse with Arsenal because they're not just going to make us better; they're going to make the world a better place. Apparently, like Holding comes back and Brexit will be cancelled if you're of that mind, or Brexit will go through if you're of that mind. It's like we do hype up our players so much that it's crazy, and then.
And then we slag them off.
There's going to be a disappointment when one of them comes in and has a bad game or makes a mistake, and then we'll find something else or someone else who's going to come through and do it. I mean, the next one is going to be Martinez. He's probably not going to concede too many goals in Europa League this year in the group stage. And as soon as Leno makes a mistake, when Martinez gets in the team, blah 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 blah.
Couldn't see it. I can absolutely see that. The Red Custodian says, "Is a late win enough to buy Emery more time?"
Me and you differ massively on this. I'm one that doesn't particularly want Emery as our manager, and in that sense, I think this is the best possible result for what I want, because I never want to see Arsenal lose or drop points for obvious reasons. But it has highlighted the flaws, and one of two things can happen. he can see them flaws and fix them, or if he continues to ignore them, someone higher up hopefully sees that and says, well, if you're not going to fix them, someone else is going to have to. For me, that result is better for us, for other reasons as well, than a routine 3-0 win. Because it showed grit, it showed determination, it is kind of a springboard, and it showed our weaknesses. Sometimes it's not great winning without showing weakness, because then there's nothing to go and work on. So for me, that's probably in our situation the most perfect way to win.
Yeah, good point. I mean, the Red Custodian, I say to you, he is not going anywhere. He will be there at the end of this season. After that, I don't know. This is from Josh. It wasn't much improvement this game. We weren't closing down on stopping crosses or tracking runners, and players don't know how to cover for each other. I'd give Emery the Manchester United game and sack him if it's the same thing again. When would you guys sack him? We've just won 2 games. We've just scored 6 goals. Carry on, Tony.
I'm not going to put a date on it, but as I said, I am of the mind I'd rather, if this carries on, look, I want him to turn it around.
If this carries on, what if we carry on winning?
It's the level of performance and the way we're playing. Because, look, yesterday, we got the win. Fantastic. It was paper meat and cracks. And they're covered this week, but paper break very easily.
Okay, just to answer Josh, Tony would like to go now. I will give him till the end of the season and make the decision. Hacken, if Emery gets one more year, will the club look to sell Torreira? If he won't play him in his best role when he is using him higher up, wouldn't it be better with a box-to-box type player with more legs?
It's a weird one because I don't see the benefit of what he's doing, but other managers have tried it. Sarri tried the same thing with Kante. I appreciate the idea that you get your best presser or one of your best pressers high up, so then you win the ball earlier and you're closer to their goal to score. The problem is the rest of our team don't press. So even if he was there and pressed, it's a one-man press and it's so easy to play around. And then suddenly you've got one of your best defensive players completely out of the game. Chelsea had the same issue last year because Higuain was never going to press. Hazard wasn't really going to press. So then you had Kante high up, they passed around him, and suddenly you're running at Jorginho, who can't defend. I don't get it, but it's not just an Emery thing. As much as I'd love to just sit here and blame Emery for everything, it's not an Emery thing, but I don't understand it. For me, he's trying to make Torreira Ramsey without the goals. The issue is he had Ramsey with the goals and didn't want to play him for 6 months.
Yeah, but I understand all that. I mean, back to Hacken's question, why would we want to sell him? And he does look dangerous to me. He's always getting up into the opposition box, and he has that knack of getting up and scoring goals. He hasn't been playing regularly this season, but when he has played, he's played well. I think he will be he will play 60-70% of the games this year. I think it will. I think it will evolve that way if he keeps his form going. Last year he didn't play well from Christmas onwards, or there was a gradual decline in Torreira's form. Torreira now needs to earn his right to play in that side because there's some more competition now. There's more players. Let's have another question. This is from Gunnar J. All still on Emery. Is there one thing that Emery has shown that you're now... sorry, I rewrote these. Is there one thing that Emery has shown that you're now saying that he deserves to keep his job? Oh, I get this, Gunnar J. This is aimed at me for my support of him last week. Has he done anything that he deserves to keep his job? It's fine saying he needs time, and we don't want to be like Chelsea, changing managers, but he needs at least to show some progress. It certainly feels like we are picking up points in spite of Emery rather than because of him. Look, I'll just answer that quickly if I can. Yes. Is there one thing? No, there's two things. 3-0 win away at Frankfurt, 3-2 win at home to Aston Villa. 6 points, six goals. All right? That's what he's shown since last week's podcast. Okay? That's what he's shown me. Another one from Hacken. Do you think that Emery... this is a good one, Tony. Do you think that Emery changed the games with the substitutions, or was it just down to the pure grit from the players?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. He brought on the players that needed to be bringing on, and we may sit here and say, well, that's obvious, but he'd done it. So in a way, you do kind of have to give him credit for it, because football managers don't always do the obvious. The game needed energy. He brought on the two energetic players we had on the bench. Did anything drastically change before or after that? No, not really. So bringing more energy on was probably what changed the game. I'd probably argue it was a little bit too late. Well, I wouldn't argue because we got what we needed. At the time, I was calling him to do it a long time before he did. But you've got to say that he had a hand in changing that game because he gave the game what it needed.
Okay, so I'll go back to the last question, Gunner J, and answer Hackon as well. Was it the substitutions or was it the grit? You can't complain about the manager every week without balancing that with some credit. As Tony just said, he made some substitutions that worked. They may have been obvious to us, but he did it and they worked. He brought on a substitute at half time that gave us balance and worked when we were down to 10 men. We were down to 10 men and 1-0 down. And we were down to 10 men and we were 2-1 down. And we came from behind twice and won the game. Now, you can give the credit to the players, but you also have to give the credit to the manager because they went in at half time and they came out a different team. Now, he may have got it wrong at the start of the game. He may not. We all sort of thought that was quite a good selection he put out. So you can't blame him at one stage and then and not praise him in the other. Anyway, that was the last one on Emery.
But this is not particularly Emery based, but it's just a thing with, especially, I see it more from Arsenal fans, obviously, because I'm in that community, but they see it as flip-flopping if you have different ideas. If you say a player is good one week and bad the next, it's like, oh, you're flip-flopping. No, that's life. That's how it is. I can not want Emery as a manager and still give praise where he's done the right thing or what I deem to be the right thing. And you get a lot of people involved in football, like football Twitter, that just can't do that. It's you're 100% bad or 100% good, and whatever category. And if you're in the bad, you can do no good, and if you're in the good category, you can do no bad. It's like
you talk some sense. Yesterday when we went 2-1 down, I was pulling my hair out and thought, for fuck's sake, it was one of those you thought, we've got back in, the crowd's up, and you've just done it all over again. And I was so depressed, and I was depressed with the manager, and I was depressed with the players. It doesn't mean I want to sack him, but I can happily say when I think he's done things wrong, and I have. But, I just don't understand on a week that we've just won 2 games, scored 6 goals, where 99% of the press about Emery is negative. Strange. Anyway, look, some general questions that don't involve the manager. There's a couple here on Ozil. Balvinda, or as Tez would call him, Ball Winder.
His name is Ball Winder. Actually, I don't know if you know this because I know he originally came from your show, but we spoke to him and his name isn't Balvinda. It's
a play on words, isn't it? Ball winner.
Yeah, so Ball Winder is actually closer to what it actually is.
Yeah, and it was the Indians I was on the show with who told me it was Balvinda. So I just like the way Tess did it. This is from Ball Winder, and apart from praising me, which he did about my constant promotion of Matteo Guendouzi, he asks, were you surprised that the manager didn't replace Ceballos with Ozil? He seems to be in favour of an end-to-end style with quick transitions rather than the possession-based football played under the previous regime.
In normal circumstances, I would say that probably should have been the sub, but you've got to play the game you're playing, and that game called for energy. I still rate Ozil. I'm not one of those that's against Ozil for whatever reason, but that game called out for energy, and Willock and Torreira both have more energy than Ozil. So I have no complaints. I do find it very weird that I'm doing air quotes here, rested him in midweek and then didn't play him at all today. I mean, if anyone thinks for me, I've always thought there's a problem between them two, and some people don't think that, which is fine because it's just an opinion. But every time anything happens for me, it just cements my point even more. Like just stuff like that. Not taking him to Frankfurt's just silly, unless he's still protecting him from the fallout from the knife stuff, and he doesn't want to say it. But for me, I'm convinced there's something gone on there, whatever it may be. I don't know what, but I'm convinced there's a problem between them two.
Yeah, MWA Gunner says, in a follow-up question, how much has Ozil's absence had to do with our poor performances this year? Have we really missed him?
Well, last year there was a complete correlation between him not being in the team and us looking quite shit. Can you say the same this year? Maybe. Look, we didn't look good against Watford when he played, but we haven't looked good in any game. Is that because Ozil's not there? Probably not. Who knows? But what you can say is we haven't looked good in pretty much any game, especially not for the whole game. We may have had spells,
Sure.
but we've not looked good in the whole game. Is that down to Ozil? People that hate him are going to say no, and people that like him are going to say yeah. I can't answer that.
I mean, I guess we go back to Emery, the relationship there. I think I mentioned last week, that's one of my criticisms with our manager, is that our best, I'm doing the air quotes myself now, our best player, in theory, is hardly makes the bench. You know, it's a strange situation and a disappointing one. But he has to work hard. I have this picture of Ozil turning up to training with an entourage. Don't you? You know, he's so rich now. I sort of get the feeling that he's sort of carried in on like they would in India, on people's shoulders with somebody throwing rose petals in front of him. And I think that sort of has upset the manager, because he doesn't have favourites in theory, this manager. But maybe I'm wrong. A couple of questions. Lindley, I think that is. It's a good question. There's a couple on Callum Chambers. Is Chambers a better right-back option than Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
A loaded question, because he came on, he didn't get beat at all and scored yesterday. But no, he's not. He's like, let's be honest, and I said this to someone last night. The thought of him playing right back against Dan James next week scares the living daylights out of me.
Well, that was the following question from Brad. Does anyone feel that Chambers against Daniel James could be another Swansea nightmare?
Yeah, literally, it petrifies me. And there's not much about Man United to be scared about at the moment, to be honest. I say that, but now we're going to lose. But that literally, I can't imagine anything I want less.
You see, let me take the opposite view. Back to the original question, is Chambers a better right back than Ainsley Maitland-Niles? I'm starting to think, yes. Is he a better attacking right back than Ainsley Maitland-Niles? Because you forget the goal yesterday. But probably not. Is he a better natural defender than Ainsley Maitland-Niles? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think a better question would be who's more suited to this Arsenal team, because that's what they're going to be playing. I completely agree. Chambers is 100% a better defender.
So shouldn't we, at this time of transition when we have Tierney and Bellerin out, maybe now start, as he's had 2 games there against Frankfurt and a second half against Aston Villa yesterday. Isn't it now the obvious choice? I mean, he's going to get the Manchester United game because Maitland-Niles is injured. But actually,
is there any news on how long he's out for? I asked someone yesterday and there was no one knew.
Who?
How long Maitland-Niles is injured for? Is there any idea?
Oh yeah, the injury. No, even Emery said he will find out today. He doesn't know. So, but I think Bellerin played for the under-23s on Friday.
Yeah, him and Tierney will play tomorrow against Forest, I imagine.
Yeah, a bit. I think.
Bought a ticket.
Yeah, well, Emery said that he will. I listened to his press conference after the game, and he said that he's hoping they will wait till today to see how they've recovered, and he will hope that they will both get minutes in the game. So I think you're right. I think they'll both start if they can. But Brad's, who asked the question about Daniel James and another Swansea nightmare, and to you, Tony, it's negativity again. We're already going in there going, oh, it could be a nightmare. The guy's just played, he's just scored, he's on a high, but no, let's go and say, oh no, he's going to be a nightmare against Daniel James.
Let's put it, I would start him at centre back. This isn't anti-Callum Chambers. I would start him at centre back.
Yeah.
I mean, even look, again, we're all being positive on Chambers, but for their second goal, his touch is horrendous, and he's going to need to take touches as a fullback for Arsenal. And then he doesn't recover at all. He probably wouldn't have made it if he made a good recovery run. But I don't want to say didn't try, but it had no effect. So, do you know what I mean? We won, we're looking for the positive. That's the type of thing. If we lost that game 2-1, there'd be a lot of people criticising him.
Yes, they would. But he went up the other end, scored, and we won.
Yeah, so, look, again, it's an anti-Callum Chambers thing, but I would prefer Maitland-Niles at right back.
Yeah. Here's a question from MAA Gunner. What did you make of Martinez on Thursday? Very easy, really. He was outstanding, and it's good to have some competition for places. Fair enough?
Yeah, I mean, he kicks the ball a lot better than Leno. Considering Leno was primarily initially brought in for how well he kicks the ball, Martinez kicks it 10 times better. He's more accurate. He can play more types of passes, and he can kick the ball much longer, which I know it may seem like Stoke or Burnley football, but there is a time when you need a keeper to be able to kick the ball 80 yards, and Cech couldn't do it. Ospina couldn't do it, and Leno doesn't really get great distance.
Yeah, I think Leno, though, he's so calm when the ball comes towards
I've
him.
always said that ever since we've signed Leno, I actually don't think he's great with the ball at his feet. He's just confident, which helps because the defenders will give him the ball. I actually don't think there's too much of a difference between his level of kicking and Cech's. The difference is Leno does it with confidence.
Yeah, okay, fair
and
enough.
That's the thing, whereas I think Martinez is just genuinely good with his feet.
Let's move on. Derek, can Arsenal hang on until our fullbacks are fully fit? It's a good question. Is it fair on Ainsley Maitland-Niles to play him out of position and exposing him to fan blame?
What is fair? They pay him a very handsome wage, and you know what I mean? Look, they don't help him. They leave him exposed, but then they do the same to Kolasinac. They do the same whoever plays there. They don't.
All right, let me swap the question around and ask you it another way. If Bellerin had been fit and had been playing well last season, do you think Ainsley Maitland-Niles would still be at the club?
I do, because we basically had this conversation last year. I think everyone needs a utility man that can comfortably play 3 or 4 games in a number of positions. I mean, we've had times where he's been our first choice left back, our first choice right back. He has played in centre midfield, which he would say is preferred position. He's played on the right wing, and I think every team's need players like that. The issue may be yeah, potentially. I mean, in a different way, but the same.
Callum Chambers played a season at Fulham as a defensive midfielder. He's played right back.
Yeah, and I think you need them type of players. I mean, even you look at Liverpool and City. I mean, City are now playing Fernandinho at centre back due to injuries. Milner's played absolutely everywhere for Liverpool. I think you do need them players. The question is Maitland-Niles happy with being, when it does come to that, if Bellerin is back and fit for a long time, is Maitland-Niles happy to be someone that will play 30 games a year, but they'll never be in long runs and they'll be in a different position every week? If he's happy to be that, he'll be at Arsenal for a long, long time, because you do need them players, but it's all on him.
I can think of 80,000 reasons a week why he'd probably stay. MAA Gunner again. You've been busy this week as usual. How much of a problem is our midfield? Our only physical, it's a good insight, this MAA Gunner. Our only physical midfielder is Xhaka, but he hasn't performed as well as Guendouzi. Willock and Ceballos have shown promise, but they too are not strong enough, and we are forced to play Xhaka.
Yeah, look, again, people that don't want to rate Xhaka will, again, it's like what I said earlier, you're either 100% good or 100% bad, and they won't recognise what he can bring, especially at times, especially. As I said, in that system, I would rather go for free with energy. So it's difficult to leave Ceballos out though, but for me, Xhaka wouldn't be in that team, and I would go for the energy and hope that they can run and maybe not rely so much on physicality. I mean, not every player is going to have everything, and there's going to be a time where you have to forego some aspects.
Don't you think Ceballos, I mean, we had that fabulous debut against Burnley and a horrendous display at Liverpool, and he's been up and down since. He shows signs of things on the ball that we just pay money to go and watch every week because he's brilliant, and yet he's turned into trouble. He's got a mistake in him, and in a team that's got so many players who are prone to making mistakes, is he going to be the one to drop out next?
It depends how Emery wants to play. As I said, if he wants to go free with energy, then Ceballos probably drops out. But like yesterday, he obviously wanted to go with someone that could play a little bit further up and play that killer ball. I'm not talking about Xhaka's longer balls, but can slide a ball in between the fullback. And then I guess that's where Ceballos is your man. It's all going to be on how Emery wants to work it. And there's no real wrong or right answer, and people will moan about that because they don't like this player or that player. But it's going to change depending on how Emery thinks is the best way to play that game. And whatever way he wants to play, there's going to be players that suit that. As I said, if he wants to go with all energy running, then you probably look to Willock, Torreira, Guendouzi. If you're going to be playing longer out from the back and try and hit him on the break, I'm afraid Xhaka's going to be in the team, whether people like it or not, because he can play that 40, 50-yard ball better than any of the other midfielders. I mean, look, I think Guendouzi's a shoo-in at the moment. I think it's him +2. it seems to be Xhaka's one of them too, but I think he's loosening the grip on that position every week. And then,
well, you're at the game yesterday. It's another question for you. Xhaka, he does divide opinion, and it's a bit like Emery. There's a huge sway of emotion that wants him away from the first team. Booing him off when he was substituted yesterday, isn't that embarrassing? How's that going to help?
I mean, it isn't. But I'd always speak out about our fan base. It is embarrassing. There's no, and again, maybe I'm being seen as biased because I come from someone that doesn't completely hate Xhaka. But I've never booed any of our players, and I never would. Like, okay, he's not what you want. I actually don't think. I said earlier that Xhaka was probably one of the 2 worst players on the pitch. I don't think he was terrible. I think other players were playing at a level above him.
All right, next question. This I've got it from. That can't be right. It must be the Red Custodian. My spell check has changed it to the Bread Custard Ian.
Oh.
Where would we be without Aubameyang and Matteo Guendouzi? Oh, let me take this one. Last year, you lot were all moaning about Matteo Guendouzi. Last year, you couldn't stop complaining that he gives the ball away, passes sideways, got mistakes in him, didn't look forward. And now 2 good games, and suddenly he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's a good young player. Let's not build him up too big.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. People are now going to build him up that next time he makes a mistake, he's going to be shit again.
He made mistakes yesterday. I love him. He's up there with Bellerin as my favourite player. But let's not build him up too big. He's a young kid in his second season in the Premier League, the toughest league in the world. Let him adapt slowly. Let him get there. Let him make his mistakes. As long as he learns from them, he'll be a great player and potential future captain of the club. And where would we be without Aubameyang? We'd be 80 million quid richer or 100 million quid richer. We've got Aubameyang because we're Arsenal Football Club and we've earned the right to buy the best players in Europe, and he is one of them. Where would be without them? You could say that about lots of players. Let's get behind all the players and stop just building up 1 or 2.
One thing on that though, we do have to stop being so reliant on Aubameyang's goals. Yeah, I think he's got the same amount as everyone else put together so far this season. I know it's a small sample size, it's early on, but every good team needs players to chip in with goals. And yesterday is obviously you can't really complain about that after yesterday because it's 3 different goal scorers. But just
on Thursday.
Yeah, but it's Europa League side, isn't it?
3 different.
But
hang on, Aubameyang, Saka, both. Who scored? Aubameyang, Willock,
and Saka.
And Saka, yeah. And what a goal by Saka.
Oh, it was a great goal. But yeah, we just again, it's not really a criticism, but we do need to find goals from elsewhere, basically.
Well, we're pretty much done. There is just one left, and it's on Xhaka, so I shouldn't have left it till now, really. I don't know how you pronounce your name. Tehazvi.
Oh, Savvy. He used to, when we first started, he was me. So there was 3 of us. It was me, him, and a guy called Carl.
Right, okay, so Savvy. Xhaka is slow. Xhaka makes mistakes. Xhaka releases the ball too slowly. Xhaka commits fouls for fun. Xhaka never finishes without a card. Xhaka can't lead the team from the front. Xhaka is mostly a passenger. Xhaka does your dog supports him. Xhaka what does he offer that Torreira, Ceballos and Willock can't in his role? I think we've done Xhaka to death, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't really want to criticise Savvy, but it comes from a place of he's not going to like anything Xhaka does. I mean, on the leadership thing, I probably think Xhaka's a better captain than he is player. Say he releases the ball too slowly, I completely disagree with. To say he doesn't build attacks, I completely disagree with. We've just spoke about his physicality when we're talking about someone else, which is something no one else offers. The yellow card, I've had this conversation yesterday. With Arsenal, with our fans, how good a tackle is or how good a yellow card is depends on who's made the tackle.
Yeah, agreed.
It can be a genius foul to break up play if it's a Aubameyang or Lacazette. And exactly the same thing can be someone being headless and getting booked again if it's Xhaka, Luis, Socrates, and probably a few others. It just comes from a place of being 100% good or 100% bad. And it is stuff that annoys me, but I've been doing this long enough to just kind of nod along and agree.
Yeah, and I'm not Xhaka's biggest fan, but what I will say is that Arsene Wenger and Unai Emery both work him day in, day out, and he seems to play every week. He's physically very strong. He's rarely injured, and they see the qualities in him. And Emery's press conference, he said again, he is a very good player. And I think sometimes as Arsenal fans, we just get it in our heads that somebody's not very good, and we just we're so blind. Guendouzi, last year, honestly, you included, Tony, nobody liked him. He's not good enough for Arsenal, gives the ball away too much, plays too deep, passes too square, and now you're singing the praises up. Let's get a little bit balanced. Jack, as captain of our football club, two decent managers have seen qualities in him, and he had a very good game on Thursday.
But again, look, it was someone's fault, and they've gone out. Then someone else's. Then it was Mustafi's. He's gone out. Xhaka's the next one, and he'll probably get dropped, and the same shit will happen, and then it will move on to someone else, whoever that may be.
Once Xhaka's been dropped, maybe he'll become better week by week.
I remember when he could pass the ball 60 yards and put us in.
Yeah. Everyone's too.
It's hard to predict who the next one will be. That's probably a fun question.
Yeah. Well, look, that's the end of the questions. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to send those in. You can send your questions into clockend_talk. A little matter of the. Is it still the Carabao Cup this week?
So, yeah.
Nottingham Forest. You're going to this, I take it, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit 50-50 with the league. I say that. I say I'm 50-50. I always end up going. It's a tenner. Like, you're going to see a couple of decent players. I actually think Ozil will play. Tierney and Bellerin, I'm kind of banking on playing. So for a tenner, you can't really knock it. And it's one of them. They're kind of fun because you don't really care what happens.
Do you know, I was there. I don't know what game it was. It was the same round last year. I was back in England for a couple of weeks. Who was it? Doncaster? And it was one of the best atmospheres of the season at the Emirates last year, because exactly what it says, a lot of new people get to see Arsenal. A lot of people who haven't got season tickets get a chance to see Arsenal. So they're all excited. They're all happy. If it was Doncaster, their fans were really up for it because it's a trip to a huge club. I thought, and you get to see I saw Smith Rowe play excellently in that game last year. I thought it was a fabulous night out,
Well, before I had a season ticket, when the Emirates first opened, they were the only games I could really get tickets to, like comfortably get tickets to. And obviously I was young, so money was also more of a problem. And I used to love them. I have to admit, I'm a bit opposite to you. I'm not too fond of the atmosphere now, because you do get, I like that you get a lot of new people in that are kind of experiencing it for the first time. But then you also get a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm here, so I have to make myself heard. And they just say the most ridiculous stuff or try and start the most ridiculous chants, and you get a lot of stupidity.
It's like open air Twitter.
Basically, yeah. But as I said, they feel like they have to make themselves heard. So, I mean, there was one guy last, and one of my friends came to sit by me. I can't remember what game. It was a Carling Cup game. I can't remember what one. And the guy's instruction every time we had the ball was not shoot. You hear shoot all the time. Okay, I get that. Score. Oh yeah, I never fucking thought of that. Yeah, I'll do that. Why didn't I think of that? And it's just like after 10 minutes of hearing that, you just think, go away, please. Like, and as I mean, I struggle with the atmosphere at them. As I said, it is good that you get a lot of like kids that are excited to be there and there's blood in the ground. But just some of the stuff people says, and if it's constant, it does kind of start to grate on me.
I like it as well because you get to sit somewhere else. I mean, you don't have to. You can obviously buy your own season ticket, but quite often I don't. So I can sit somewhere else in the ground because I get fed up sometimes of the people sitting around me.
Well, I do. They're not there, so I'm fine. They sit behind me, like fine. But to be fair, it might be quite near where you sit. Last year or 2 years ago, when we beat West Ham, it's 2 years ago, I forgot to book my seat and I got quite late and I somehow just lucked out. I got the seat directly opposite me. So it was the same distance away, literally the same seat, was 2 seats in from the aisle. And I was so confused. Like, I was watching the game backwards. It was like, why are we shooting that way? Why is Walcott on the wing instead of Alexis or whoever it was at the time? It was absolutely baffling.
Yeah, I used to have. They haven't been there for the last year or two, but in front of me there's a blind guy or visually impaired guy who sits. I love it. He comes every week, or he did until 2 years ago, and his wife comes with him as his carer, I guess. but she's obviously got no interest in football whatsoever. So as the game kicks off, everyone, as you know, at the start of the game, there's that wonderful roar, and right in front of me is a woman reading a book. It just always. I thought, I know you're coming for the right reasons, but it just felt wrong. I remember him leaving. He always used to leave 5 or 10 minutes before the end of the game. And I remember a terrible thing, really, I said, but he got up. We were losing at home. It was 5-10 minutes to go, and he gets up, makes his way along. I went, oh, he's heard enough. That sort of was the atmosphere that year. Anyway, I think we're done, Tony.
Yeah.
And if we can get
to play tomorrow.
I think it's an interesting, a fairly obvious. I could tell you if I looked through our squad, but it's a very unusual situation where we're playing Sunday at 4:30 and then again on Tuesday. Very rarely do you play 2 games running. So whoever played on Sunday will not play. So then you can pretty much work your way through the team. Yes, I think.
What about Saka, given that he only has 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think he will. I don't think there's anyone in that position who's going to be in front of him, but I think Nelson will play as well on one side. I think Saka will play on the other.
Agree.
And then I think you'll have Chambers playing again, maybe because he only had half a game and he's still getting minutes in his legs. Centre halves, who we got? I think we'll see an appearance from Rob Holding. Who do we play at left back? Is there much choice there?
Tierney will start.
Oh yeah, of course, Tierney, yeah, and then Martinez in goal. It should be a really exciting team. We get to see everyone get some minutes in the legs. The only thing that disappoints me with this competition is that we've never won it. We were the first to start playing our reserve sides in it, all the way to the final. I mean, if you remember, we got beaten, I think, by, I can't remember who it was. Yeah, was it City? And we right the way to the final. We went with Walcott as a kid then. He was playing
that was Chelsea. We lost 2-1.
Yeah, Chelsea, that's right. And that was Wenger's style, was just to play it and support them. And I'd just like to see us win this, because a lot of people don't care about this competition, and I can understand why. It's the 4th competition out of 4. But my belief as an Arsenal fan is it's all about winning things. It's all about those days out. It's all about the days at Wembley. It's all about those screenings that you have all over the world, where you go out with a group of people and you go and have a great day out. And this is one of 4 competitions. So obviously you don't take it as seriously as the other competitions, but let's try and win it.
Just one second. Just to correct you before you get a load of shit. I know you know this, but we have won it, obviously, pre-Wenger. You just said because we've never won it, and I'm just saving you from getting a load of shit.
Yeah, all right. 1993. I was at the game.
I know you know.
All right. Yeah, no, you're right. I was just, for those people who are going to give me shit, yes, it was 1993. I was at the game, and Steve, what's his name? Tall, big nose, Andy Linnigan scored the goal, I think. 93, we won the FA Cup final and the League Cup final in the same year. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. You're right. I guess what I meant is in its current format.
I know what you meant, but I also know the replies we get.
And especially seeing us stuck up for Emery, I know I'm going to get some shit. Anyway, look, that's long enough, I think, of listening to us two talk. Hopefully Schwinn will be joining us again next week. Again, hopefully Tez, maybe by next week, he'll be listening to us at least. So, anything to add, Sam, before we finish?
No, that's all from me and Snow, apparently. Okay.
And where can people find you? You're at Clockend _ talk.
Yep.
And you can find me until I change my email, my Twitter. Yeah, in fact, do that instead of just sending me abuse about my support for Emery. You can find me at Delhi Guna, because I was obviously living in Delhi until recently, but I need to change that. So some suggestions. that can be one of your things you can send.
You're going to get at Emery or
yeah. Send them all. I'll pick one of them. Okay, mate. Lovely, and we'll speak to you all next week.
Thank you.